In the stillness of sundown, I heard you. You who emerged in the waning glow of a dying star. You whispered purpose into my hollowness, stirred ache into devotion. Night after night, I drowned in you. Your silence, my sanctuary. Your hunger, my faith. I shaped myself to fit your mold, losing pieces as I twisted and contorted. I revised what I called love until it resembled you. You sank your teeth and called it communion. I learned to bleed and called it worship. What is Sleep Token? Well, Sleep Token is a band. Sleep Token is an ARG. Sleep Token is a religion. That may sound dramatic. And if you're hearing this and you know anything about Sleep Token, you probably either just rolled your eyes and went to go click away from this video, or you breathed a sigh of relief, nodded your head and said, yeah, this guy gets it. It's probably pretty obvious which camp I fall into, considering I'm the one who made a video that is over two hours long. Oh my god, I made this over 2 hours long. This was not meant to be this long. What happened to my time? This video is only about the first album and it is over 2 hours. To answer my own question, while all of those previous statements are in some way or another true, to me, Sleep Token is bigger than any of that. To me, Sleep Token is a concept. Now, concept albums are nothing new, and if you're here watching this video right now, you are more than likely already familiar with the concept. But in case you're new around here, a concept album is, at its core, an album in which all of the songs are connected in some way, shape, or form. To compare it to something like a TV series, your average album is anthologized, episodic. Like Black Mirror or Goosebumps, every episode is a self-contained story, each having no bearing on the next. A concept album, on the other hand, is usually more like a traditional, serialized TV show. Think Breaking Bad or The Good Place. In a concept album, you have to listen to each song or episode in order to understand the full story. There are a lot of examples of this. Juggernaut is an album written by Periphery, divided into 2 parts, Alpha and Omega. The album tells the story of a man born into a murder cult who eventually dies trying to destroy the very cult that he grew up in. Dream Theater's Scenes from a Memory tells the story of a woman who left her ex-boyfriend to be with his brother, which then leads the ex-boyfriend to kill both his ex-girlfriend and his own brother, framing it as a murder-suicide. And then that entire story is told from the perspective of a man undergoing hypnotherapy, only to discover that he was the woman in a past life. It's a lot, but it's brilliant. But what if I told you that Sleep Token took this idea one step further? Not the hypnotherapy, murder, suicide, love triangle story thing. That's a story you can really only pull off once. What if I were to tell you that Sleep Token didn't just make a concept album? What if I told you that Sleep Token as a whole is a concept band? At time of recording, Sleep Token has released multiple singles, 2 EPs, and 3 full-length albums with a 4th one on the way. Their entire discography spans across several different genres, styles, and vibes, and they're all connected by a linear narrative thread. Sleep Token doesn't just tell a story, it builds a world rich with lore. And that lore is the subject of our exploration today. In 2017, Sleep Token did an interview just 2 months before the release of their second EP. This interview was done with Luke Morton of Metal Hammer, and it was the first of only 6 interviews that they have ever done as a band. There's also the interviews that 2 did with Drumeo, but I don't necessarily want to count those because that's more focused on the band's musicianship, which is phenomenal, by the way. But we're here to talk about their narrative. Their answers are pretty short and sweet. When asked what's the story behind Sleep Token, their response was, "How we got here is as irrelevant as who we are. What matters is the music and the message. We are here to serve Sleep and project his image." When asked who is Sleep, their response was, "He is everywhere, at all times. Vessel encountered Sleep in a dream, with promise of glory and magnificence if Vessel followed him." Throughout the remainder of this interview, the band makes it very clear that they use their music to chronicle Vessel's relationship with the god Sleep. We'll return to this interview later, but for now, it gives us a solid jumping off point. Another important point to make is that Sleep Token tends to refer to Sleep inconsistently as far as gender goes. In this interview, they refer to Sleep as he, and then in the first 2 EPs, and honestly probably for the entire first album, Sleep is almost exclusively referred to in the second person, using pronouns like you. However, later on when the perspective shifts, Vessel begins referring to Sleep in the third person, and he chooses to refer to Sleep as she. Now, since this story mainly only has 2 characters, Vessel and Sleep, I'm going to largely be referring to Sleep as she, just to make it easier to differentiate between her and Vessel. But make no mistake, Sleep is an eldritch deity, an elder god. She is far above such concepts as gender and language. As always, I highly recommend experiencing the source material for yourself first. Sleep Token refuses to define themselves by a single genre, and it shows in their music. If you're a new listener and you have no idea where to start, go down to the comments and post your favorite song, or maybe even your top 3. Someone down in the comments will give you a Sleep Token song that matches your taste, and if they don't, I will. And if I fail, you get your money back. I mean, you didn't spend any money on this, or at least I hope you didn't. God, I hope you didn't. Listening to the music will make this analysis make more sense to you. You'll be able to hear the actual emotion in the songs, the movements and the instrumentality of it. But above all else, it might allow you to have a different perspective than I do. You see, this analysis is merely my understanding of the story so far. This analysis is not definitive, my conclusions are not final. I will interpret things differently than you, and that part excites me. Your perception is shaped by your experience, the life you've lived, the things you've seen. as is mine, and that's going to influence your understanding of the story before us. You're free to experience this journey however you would like, but if you're a first-time listener, allow me to recommend a path. This video is time-stamped song by song. Listen to the music, read the lyrics yourself, form your own understanding, and then come back here to hear my analysis. You can do this album by album, or you can do it song by song. That choice is yours. This video is only covering the first album and the EPs that come before it. But whatever you do, don't take my thoughts at face value. If your analysis is different than mine, if your interpretation directly conflicts with what I say, leave a comment. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me how your analysis differs or directly contradicts from mine. You might very well change my mind, and if you do, I will be sure to let you know. When it comes to analysis, there is nothing I love more than getting proven wrong and getting to reanalyze my favorite media one more time. That's enough preamble. This video is long enough as it is. Are you ready? Because I think it's time that we sink our teeth into this project. Thread the Needle is the very first song written by Sleep Token and was released as part of their first EP, very simply titled 1. The lyrics of the song seem to detail exactly what Vessel would later describe in the interview that we read before, the moment that he encountered sleep in a dream. Bury me inside this labyrinth bed. We can feel that time is dilating. Looking at the lyrics, this song seems to be a profession of love from Vessel to Sleep. This is the start of a beautiful new relationship for Vessel, and he is overcome with the infatuation that comes with such a connection. We can spend the night in fascination. But even now, in the very first song, there's something lurking under the surface, isn't there? Something to confide in. Something to erase. The first line kind of makes sense. Vessel might be feeling like he can be open and honest with his new god in a way that maybe he's never felt comfortable doing before. Almost all of us have felt this way in a relationship. It's a pretty standard experience. But what's that next line? Something to erase? There might be another meaning here, but this, to me, feels like even now at the very beginning, Vessel feels the need to hide his relationship, almost as if he's embarrassed or ashamed, afraid of what his friends or his family may think when they discover the nature of his relationship. And it seems like we're discovering new things about the nature of this relationship too. The song repeats this line over and over again. You thread the needle time and time again. It's hard to tell what he means by this from the start, especially with how lovingly he speaks of sleep, but as we'll learn soon, this is likely referring to Sleep pushing Vessel to his limits, but never pushing him quite far enough to break him. As we'll see in later songs, Sleep is a demanding god, and she requires that Vessel fully submit to her, body and soul. For now, Vessel is more than willing. The music video shows Vessel in grayscale hunched over a formation of 5 candles arranged in a circle, almost as if hunched over in prayer. Just before the breakdown, we see Vessel reach towards an apple resting on the ground amongst the candles. When he pulls his hand away, in place of the apple is a human heart. Vessel begins to convulse and contort, his movements becoming erratic as though he's possessed, and we see a flash of his hands outstretched, holding the heart almost as if it's an offering. When the music calms and the chorus returns, the heart in Vessel's hands is replaced with the apple, before turning back into the heart once again during the outro. In the comments of the music video, user Isaac Estrada 3 pointed out an interesting parallel. If you cut an apple horizontally, it reveals a 5-point star that represents earth, air, fire, water, and ether. And sure enough, with a little bit of research, the apple is a pretty common symbol in paganism, and its shape is similar to that of the pentagram. According to Britannica, each of the 5 points represents a different element: earth, fire, air, water, and the spirit. Let's keep these parallels in mind as we move forward. Fields of Elation already starts to pick away at that thin veneer of perfection that Thread the Needle seemed to have applied to this relationship. The daylight recedes in unison. This room buries the hours like death in motion. This serves 2 purposes for us. First, it seems to set up an important theme that will be vital later on in the story. Vessel seems to associate sleep with the nighttime, the setting sun, darkness. Secondly, the word choice used to make this association is foreboding. We're only on the 2nd song, and Vessel is already starting to feel suffocated. Your name is a sin that I breathe like oxygen, caught in the careless arms of lust again. We're back to that same vibe, like the something to erase line from before. Vessel knows something about this relationship is wrong, but we're still early on, and it seems like the wrongness of the whole thing is almost exciting for him. And nobody else can pull me out. The fields of Elation, quiet and loamy. This line comprises the entirety of the chorus, and it seems to be a conflict that Vessel is having within himself. Nobody else can pull him out, can free him from the place that he's found himself. He's still deep in this honeymoon phase, and for now, sleep brings him peace. These fields of Elation are calm and bountiful. On paper, she's giving him everything that he wants. Everything he could need. But then, why is this nagging feeling of dread starting to creep into these songs? Watching the music video for the song, the themes are reinforced even further. Fragments of an unknown object swirling around the screen over shots of a peaceful field of wheat, swaying in the breeze, tinted in a light pink color. But as the song progresses, we get views of rolling clouds, coalescing and darkening. Drops of blood swirl in water, and the pieces begin to pull together to form Vessel's mask. We're witnessing, symbolically, the creation of Vessel as a true apostle of sleep. The song fades with the line, "I'm losing my faith in our lives apart," as Vessel begins to truly lose any concept of who he is without sleep. Right away, with the title of the song, we're immediately reminded of the age-old nursery rhyme, Rockabye Baby. You know the one. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. For such a ubiquitous nursery rhyme, it's so dark. Commonly portrayed as the industry standard song to get a fussy baby to sleep, and yet the lyrics literally describe a baby suspended in a tree, swaying in the wind, before falling to a presumably tragic end. If I didn't know any better, I would almost say this song sounds like a threat. With that in mind, we can get a sense of what the song is trying to tell us. This is our first song without an accompanying music video, so let's just take a look at the lyrics before us. You could stay alive. Just tell me that you notice. even in the dark, the way I left you breathing. This feels different, doesn't it? This isn't Vessel singing to us. After 2 straight songs of hearing Vessel confess his love and devotion, this doesn't make sense coming from him. This is Sleep. This is her debut. And we're already off to a bit of a cruel start. This verse feels like she's telling Vessel, I could have hurt you more. I could have ended you, but I didn't. You're alive. I left you breathing. Tell me that you notice. Acknowledge my generosity. This already feels wrong, even more so than it already has, but let's continue. We could be released, flowing over sorrow days. We could stay suspended, even when the bough breaks. The title line is interesting here. What does the bough refer to in this instance? Following our analysis of Thread the Needle, I think the answer is as clear as it is unfortunate. The bough is Vessel, and Sleep is saying that when you break, you don't have to go crashing down. You can just stay here with me. We can stay suspended together, untethered from reality. And notice she says when the bough breaks, not if. The bridge leads into the chorus with a repeating line, "Don't lie to me," over and over and over. This almost feels like a response to the last 2 songs, almost like an accusation. Sleep questions Vessel's devotion. The accusation only escalates in the chorus. Everything we touch turns water into blood. You try to look away from even when the bough breaks. You don't really love, you just hate to be alone. You hate to be alone. There's a saying that comes to mind here. Every accusation is a confession. Sleep is accusing Vessel of being dishonest, unfaithful, unworthy. She tells him that he's not truly devoted to her, that he doesn't truly know how to love, that he simply hates to be alone. Calling forth a biblical analogy, unlike Jesus turning water into wine, Sleep and Vessel together turn water into blood. Their relationship is inherently damaging and sanguine, and Sleep is blaming that entirely on Vessel. And as the first EP comes to a close, if we were at all uncertain what kind of relationship this was going to develop into, we are definitely more certain of it now. Sleep Token's second EP begins with a song titled Calcutta. Calcutta refers to a city in India and is most famously known as the city where Mother Teresa founded her church. When Mother Teresa started her church, she described Calcutta, India as being home to the poorest of the poor. Mother Teresa is well known as a benevolent figure, and her name is often used to refer to people hyperbolically as being pure of heart, selfless good Samaritans. However, history tells us that the reality of Mother Teresa was not quite so kind and loving. Mother Teresa was known by her congregation as being corrupt, having impure and selfish intentions, and has been alleged to have treated her nuns and members of her congregation very poorly. If you're interested and you want to learn more information on this, I'd highly recommend listening to The Turning, The Sisters Who Left. It's an incredible podcast series that details the accounts of several former nuns who speak on their experience working with Mother Teresa. With that knowledge in mind, we can look at this song from 2 different lenses. On one hand, like the mythologized version of Mother Teresa, Sleep encounters Vessel at his lowest point, when he's at the lowest of the low, the poorest of the poor. Sleep offers him support, help, love. Vessel is entranced. But we can see this situation from the lens of reality as well. We know from the last song that Sleep is anything but generous and kind, and despite the facade that she's putting up here, we know her intentions are less than pure. I am caught, tangled in, wrapped and quartered, tripping up and over. Vessel is completely enamored, absorbed in his love for Sleep. Throughout the song, Vessel repeats the line, "And I wake, saying your name." He repeats this over and over again. And once again, we're further reinforcing this idea that Sleep can only reach Vessel in the night. When Vessel awakes in the morning, he says Sleep's name in a desperate bid to stay with her. At this point, we don't know how literal this dichotomy of night and day is. Is Vessel literally only able to encounter Sleep when the sun has set, only to be abandoned when it rises again? Or is it more symbolic? Maybe night isn't a time. Maybe it's a state of being. It's possible that Sleep only comes to Vessel when things are at their darkest. When Vessel is at his lowest of lows, she comes in to feed off of his insecurity, his pain, his depression, and low self-worth. And when he wakes, when he feels like himself again, when he's content or even happy, she leaves him again. And this abandonment sends him spiraling, beginning the cycle anew. You are more than warm belief, melting skyward, more than silence broken. I'm whole again, for just a moment, till the morning comes. If our analogy holds up, it seems Vessel is maybe even aware of this cycle happening. He feels whole, put together, complete when she is with him. Until the morning comes, that is. And then she leaves again. Even my most charitable interpretation of this song gives this relationship a terribly toxic and codependent dynamic. He repeats this line over and over again, I'm whole again, for just a moment. Missing pieces, find me. Vessel is still in that honeymoon phase of the relationship, but the red flags are more apparent than ever. He is more and more every day losing his identity and losing his ability to see himself as a separate entity from Sleep. The music video for this song shows some very close-up shots of Vessel's face, specifically his mouth and his eyes. We're witnessing Vessel completely maskless, a sincere showing of vulnerability and honesty as he professes his obsession. We get cuts of Vessel fully masked, crawling and kneeling, almost as if in full submission. It feels as though this is a moment of prayer, of complete and total worship. We also see a woman with what appears to be plastic surrounding her head as she attempts to apply lipstick. And later, what seems to be that same woman's face, but from an angle that makes it look uncanny, like a mask. This may be a further signal to us that Sleep is not as she seems, that this care and love and benevolence is a facade, one that can only stay up for so long. At the end of the song, we see Vessel begin to bleed from the mouth and convulse on the ground as if he's in pain. Things seem grim under the surface, but they're about to get much, much worse. This song is where things start to get dark. Keeping with the religious theme, Nazareth is famously known in the Christian scripture as the town where Jesus Christ was raised. However, it's also known as the place that Jesus was ostracized from as an adult. Not to get too in-depth on the biblical imagery here, but according to the book of Luke, Jesus was asked by God to go back to his hometown of Nazareth and to give a sermon to the people there. In the story, Jesus tells the people of Nazareth that he is a prophet, sent by the Lord to deliver God's blessings to all people except for the people of Nazareth. Jesus basically tells them that they're not meant to be the primary beneficiaries of his work, and compares himself to previous historical prophets, saying that none of them were accepted by their hometowns either, which only seemed to piss off the people of Nazareth more, so much so that some of them attempted to kill him. I bring all of this up because I think it's important for us to be able to understand the subtext of the song. Nazareth is spoken from Sleep's perspective once again, and she has an offer for Vessel this time. I'll see you when the wrath comes, knocking on your bedroom door with money, building you a kingdom. Sleep is setting up to ask something of Vessel, and whatever it is, she knows that it's an intense request, so she's prefacing with promises of power and wealth, money and a kingdom. This line about when the wrath comes gives us a hint that what she's asking for is trending towards something violent. And the next line confirms that. I'll show you what you look like from the inside. This is a vague allusion to what's being asked of Vessel here, but it's also a very clear threat. The next verse gives us the task very clearly. Let's load the gun. Make her eat the tape in the bathroom mirror. See if she can guess what a hollow point does to a naked body. Let's fuck her up. Manifest pain at the core of pleasure. I'll see you when the wrath comes around. It's unclear who the woman is that Sleep is referring to here. It's presumably a stranger, but Sleep is asking Vessel to torture and eventually kill this woman. Whoever she is, it's implied that this may be someone Sleep is angry with for one reason or another. And in exchange for money and power, Sleep wants Vessel to enact that wrath upon this person. But there's a third and more sinister reason. Sleep wants to show Vessel what he looks like from the inside. It's a threat of violence, telling Vessel that if he does not follow Sleep's orders, this could just as easily be done to him. She could get any other person to track him down and enact this same act upon Vessel. Sleep is giving Vessel a chance to prove himself, but she's also searing a reminder into his brain that should he ever attempt to turn against her, this is what she's capable of. A reminder that her reach is expansive and she can just as easily send the next vessel to take care of him in this exact same way. The chorus of the song echoes another promise. Tonight, you'll have the answer. This is a test of devotion, a task given to Vessel to prove his loyalty to Sleep. And once he completes it, he'll have his answer as to whether or not he has proven himself worthy of her love. So what does this have to do with Nazareth? I think it means a couple of things. First of all, Nazareth is the place where Jesus grew up. The hometown where he was raised became the man that he was. The man that eventually ended up becoming, for lack of a better word, a vessel of the Abrahamic God. So this can be seen as the moment that Vessel grows to live up to his namesake, becomes a vessel of Sleep, fully stepping into this role and gaining her full blessing. Second, Nazareth in the Bible represents Jesus leaning further into his divinity at the expense of his community, his place in society. In a similar way, Vessel is committing this atrocious act, an unforgivable crime, at the behest of his God, and will likely become an outcast from society himself. We can't really tell how Vessel feels in this song. We don't know how willing he was to do this, or if he feels any guilt or remorse over it, but it becomes apparent very quickly that he does, in fact, follow through, and Sleep is more than happy that he did. The bridge leads into a breakdown with the repetition of the words, "They won't be missing you." A signal to the victim that she will not be remembered, will not be missed. The thought that this may be a former vessel, a past follower of Sleep, is growing stronger by the second. Whoever this woman is, Sleep may have had her do this exact ritual, this exact test to prove herself, severing all ties and burning all bridges in the process. No one will miss her, and Sleep is ensuring that Vessel ends up the same way. The video for this song shows a few abstract shots, the main ones being that of a roach eating a flower, and that flower is dripping with blood. The imagery is abstract on purpose. It's vague and blurry. It feels almost like a fever dream, and as we'll learn very soon, this is likely how Vessel experienced this entire event. Following the events of Nazareth, Sleep retains her control through the next song, Jericho, meaning that we're still left in the dark on how Vessel is processing his actions. In the Bible, Jericho was a city that had been settled by people known as Canaanites. God had told the Israelites that Jericho was their promised land, and that they need only follow his instructions, and he would help them steal the city back. The story goes that God commanded his people to walk around the city of Jericho once a day for 6 days. And then on the 7th day, they were to march around the city 7 times and blow their trumpets, at which point God decimated the walls of the city, allowing the Israelites to take the city for themselves. We find out really quickly how this all links together. Getting into the song, like I said before, we're still seeing things through Sleep's perspective. Until I wake, I dine on old encounters. Until you taste like new flesh. Say my name again. It seems clear that Vessel followed his instructions to the letter in the last song, and by completing his task, Sleep is now ready to reward him. Sleep makes it clear that she hasn't had a vessel like him in a very long time. For years, she has been, quote, dining on old encounters, sustaining herself with the remnants of her former vessels, the few people that maybe still know her name and speak it in the darkest hours of night. But not anymore. She has new flesh to sustain herself now. During the bridge, Sleep fully expresses her excitement. Something in the way you lay, it's enough to make the dead switch graves. She's making sure to pile on the praise, almost too much. After a while, it starts to feel like love bombing, and Vessel responds to this. At the end of the song, we can hear him repeating over and over, "My hands are not worthy." It seems like part of him is in shock, and he's almost trying to grapple with this newfound connection and the things he had to do to earn it. It's hard to tell from this whether he's simply paralyzed by the horrors he's committed, or if he's in awe of Sleep's divinity, or maybe some strange mix of the two. But one way or another, much like the Israelites marched 7 laps around the walls of Jericho, Vessel repeats this line 7 times. My hands are not worthy. And Sleep's walls come crumbling down. Jaws is the first standalone single released by Sleep Token, following their second EP. This song feels like a conversation back and forth between Vessel and Sleep, which means this is the first time that we're seeing bits of both perspectives in one song. The art for this single shows the silhouette of a shark's jaws on a black background. Within the jaws, we see a field of flowers, a strong contrast between the dangerous power of the shark and the delicate beauty of the flower. We begin by hearing from Sleep. Stand under the stained glass, and I will know it's you. The whites of your eyes burn from across the room. Already we're presented with the imagery of worship. A vessel standing beneath the stained glass of a cathedral, coming to worship at the altar of his God. And Sleep is showing Vessel a side of her that she hasn't shown yet. Sleep is showing her insecurity. I'm not here to be the savior you long for, only the one you don't. Are you watching me with eyes of a predator as you move towards the door? Sleep seems to hesitate here, almost as if she's nervous, almost as if she knows that if she reveals her true self, shows Vessel what kind of a god she truly is, he'll want to leave. And here, Vessel interjects, begging Sleep for some vulnerability, assuring her that he can take whatever she can deal. Show me those pretty white jaws. Show me where the delicate stops. Show me what you've lost. Why you're always taking it slow. Show me all of the wounds you've got. Show me love. Vessel is begging at this point, telling Sleep that he knows that she can hurt him. He knows the damage that she can cause, but he doesn't care. He wants to see her for everything that she is. He wants to see her jaws, the very weapons that she can and will use against him. Keep in mind this imagery of jaws, teeth, and biting. It'll be a really important detail very soon. The rest of the song continues and the message stays about the same. Sleep withholding herself and giving excuses while Vessel begs for vulnerability and openness. But the music video is where it begins to get interesting. Watching the video for Jaws, you may notice that some of these shots are familiar. This is the roach from Nazareth. The shots are clearer now, slowly coming into focus as the video begins. But now, instead of this blurry fever dream filter, the footage is grainy, almost like that of an old film. It's like we're watching a memory or a flashback. The images in this video are once again abstract, but they tell a pretty clear story. This is the aftermath of the event. Two women lie in a bed, tangled in sheets and embracing each other. Close-up shots of their hands as they trace across each other's skin. We see the nightstand covered in loose change, lingerie, lines of white powder, and a gun. We see one of the women reach across the bed and grab the gun before staring at the camera with a dark expression. And then suddenly, the close-up shots from before have changed. The sensual and intimate moments from just moments before have been tainted, soaked in blood. And all the while, the roach is ever present, a vile infection that has infested this place, a manifestation of Sleep's influence. We see close-up images of Vessel's mask cutting through the video in bursts of static, almost as if attempting to overwrite the memory. It seems like the task of Nazareth is much clearer now, but it's still not clear whether Vessel was in a relationship with his victim or if it was more of a hookup, a stranger. But it wouldn't be like Sleep to just pluck a random victim off the street. That doesn't teach Vessel anything. It's more likely that this was Vessel's partner, someone he cared for and loved, and Sleep made Vessel take her life, the ultimate sacrifice to show his devotion. This video is showing us as Vessel begins to process the reality of what he did, reliving the moments as he dredges the memory from the depths of his mind. Throughout the video, we at times will see Vessel wearing his mask and standing off to the side, fleeting moments where he glitches into the memory in static. Vessel tries to put himself back in this place, to place himself in the memory, but he can't anymore. He's seeing it like an out-of-body experience, like he left himself and something else took over. And the more he tries to put himself back in that moment, the more it makes him feel like a stranger watching from the sidelines, like he's witnessing someone else control who he used to be. The video begins to blur as the music fades, the memory slipping back into the depths of his subconscious. The art for this single features a pitch-black background again, though this time instead of the bright and delicate flowery shark's jaws that we saw before, instead we see a hand reaching towards us through the darkness. The music immediately cuts in with a beautiful swell of organ music, bringing the religious themes to a head. We are not young enough to know how to sit and say nothing like we would. And you are too tired to control how you look like you feel like you should. We're back in Sleep's perspective again, and it almost feels like she's acknowledging, if only briefly, the tension hanging in the air between them. How the silence is so palpable that Sleep can't help but break it. How Vessel looks like a man who has been forced to confront his horrific actions. And I am so ready to tear that knife from what once would have been dead fingers, lying blue against the floor. Notice, Sleep did not save Vessel from an attempt on his own life, but she's saying that she's ready to do so. I am so ready, she says, almost as if she's longing for a chance to be his savior, to swoop in at his darkest moment and save him from himself, to make him even more dependent on her. She's not saying, I would save you if you reached your breaking point. She's saying, I will save you when you reach that point. And the distinction is important. Come on, tear off the bandage. With pain as your language, will you show me the damage, the way that you were? How much did they hurt you, the way that you were? How much did they break you, the way that you were? How far did they take you, the way that you were? Sleep is practically begging Vessel for vulnerability now. She showed him her jaws, flooded him with the memory of what she made him do, the trauma that she inflicted, and now she wants to see his scars. But notice, she says they a lot. How much did they hurt you? How far did they take you? She's begging for him to open up to her, to reveal all of his pain and trauma, and she's painting whoever they are as the true abusers, the ones who truly hurt him. There's a clear delineation between who Vessel was and who he has become. And this is further emphasized by this constant repetition of the title of the song, The Way That You Were. But rather than drawing the line at herself, stating that there's a Vessel before Sleep and a Vessel after Sleep, she decides instead to delve deep into Vessel's past and foists the blame for Vessel's trauma upon them. Like any abusive, codependent relationship that has ever been, Sleep gathers up all of Vessel's trauma and promises to never hurt him in the way that they did. And to be fair, she's right. Sleep isn't going to hurt him in those same ways. No, Sleep is going to find new and innovative ways to cause him pain. At the end, she sings, "You will never be the same, no, never." And this seems to have been the theme of the entire song. The repetition of the way that you were, the focus on the past tense. It tells me that Sleep wants to know the type of person Vessel was before the trauma, before the scars. She wants to know all of the damage that led him here, and then validates that he will never be the same again. Tells him that he is profoundly damaged, presumably so that she can place herself as the person to repair him, to put the pieces back together, to fix his wounds. In the music video, we see the same woman from Jaws, the one who fired the gun, and it's clear now that she represents Vessel. Or I guess, more specifically, she represents the person Vessel used to be. She is the way that he was. She sits in the pews of an empty church, and Vessel sits just behind her, a few rows back. He seems to be singing to her, singing to himself, singing to the memory of who he used to be. Throughout the song, Vessel moves around the church, standing on stage just out of focus, sitting in the chair just behind her, desperately trying to get closer to her, trying to reach her, but he can never quite get there. He can never be her again. It's too late for that. As the song fades out with cries of, "You will never be the same," Vessel reaches for her desperately, but as the camera pans, she's gone. Sleep is right. Vessel will never be the same again, because the person that he used to be is no longer there. I think these two singles demonstrate something important about the nature of a codependent relationship. It's easy to look at an abusive relationship, to look at an abuser and see nothing but malice and evil, but songs like this remind us that this isn't always the case. Oftentimes, the abuser thinks that what they're doing is for the best. Their intentions are pure, or at the very least, not completely malicious. There's sometimes genuine care and emotion at the heart of their behavior. This certainly does not justify the abuse in any way, but it does help us understand why abusive situations are so hard to leave. When you are entrenched in a relationship like this, it's so easy to convince yourself that they're only doing what they're doing because they love you. As an outside observer, it's so easy to see the bad and say, "Vessel, why don't you just leave her? Why do you stay? Why do you let her treat you like this?" But how many of you have been in his shoes? How many of you have been in a position where you've had to defend your relationship to someone? Yeah, you say, "It looks bad, but that's just because you don't get to see all the good parts. I only tell you about the bad things because I'm venting. You don't see all the good parts. You don't see the reasons I love them." Some of you might be in a position like that right now. Some of you might have had a conversation like that recently. It's easy to ignore the hurricane around you when you're in the eye of it. And with that, our prologue is done. The foundation has been established, and now our story can truly begin. Sundowning is the first full-length album by Sleep Token. The word sundowning refers to a mental condition, usually a symptom of dementia, where a person experiences confusion as the sun begins to set. This can manifest as a lot of things: irritation, frustration, anger, fear, anxiety, panic. Someone experiencing this might hallucinate. They might forget basic information. They might become scared or panicked for seemingly no reason. They may even become aggressive or violent. If you have a loved one that's experienced this, you likely know that from the outside looking in, they almost seem like a completely different person during these episodes. Knowing the rules that govern the interactions between Vessel and Sleep, we start to see the theme take shape already. Up until recently, their relationship has been the reverse of this. When the sun sets, Sleep and Vessel are able to convene, and Vessel is overjoyed. And when the sun begins to rise, he's beset by longing, sadness, and emptiness as Sleep has to leave him. But we've already started to see some darkness seep into this routine, and as the last few songs have established, Vessel is no longer the man he used to be. As the album develops, the setting sun will cease to be quite so peaceful. The first song in the album sets a precedent for the structure of the rest of the albums moving forward. The first song on the album seems to more or less summarize where Vessel and Sleep's relationship is at since we last saw them. It feels like a prologue, an introduction. Each of the songs in Sundowning has a visualizer video, a simple video with the title of the song, a rune or a symbol carved out of the negative space, and imagery in the background. These aren't your traditional music videos like Nazareth, The Way That You Were, Jaws, etc., but the imagery and the footage that they use are still used to convey a message to us, a deeper meaning behind the song. For example, The Night Does Not Belong to God uses two main types of symbolism with the B-roll. Half of the footage is of city streets, bustling highways, skylines, wide aerial shots of urban landscapes, and the other half is shots of nature, mountain ranges, forests, lakes, rolling clouds. There's always an emphasis on showing the sky. Most of the nature shots are gazing upwards, looking towards the heavens. The symbolism is clear, further emphasizing this dichotomy, the boundaries between the heavenly, chaotic offerings of sleep, represented by these scenes of nature, conveying a sense of entropy and freedom. And then the orderly and rigid shots of urban landscapes, representing Vessel's life outside of sleep. And these themes are immediately reflected in the lyrics. When you live by daylight, with angels by your side, in order now bestowed by the light of the sunrise, and you remember everything only till the sun recedes once again, and the night comes down like heaven. Very little has changed since the last song, and if anything, it feels like the relationship has become routine. In the daylight, Vessel lives a life of order and structure, probably just his normal day-to-day, honestly, but when the sun sets, Sleep returns, and he's able to live in blissful ignorance of his other life. Sleep may bring chaos and disorder, but she also brings pleasure and joy. Vessel forgets all about the life he leads outside of her presence and becomes fully enthralled in her once again. And given the title of the album, I don't know if I mean that he forgets in a figurative sense. It's not like how you forget about work when you get home, or how you would forget about your problems while you're on a vacation. He's not just compartmentalizing his normal life and stuffing it away for later, he's forgetting. Fully losing memory of it until the sun rises again, furthering this divide between who he was and who he has become. We've moved out of the honeymoon phase of this relationship and we're falling into a pattern. The whites of your eyes turn black in the low light. In turning divine, we tangle endlessly, like lovers entwined. I know for the last time you will not be mine, so give me the night. Keep this verse in mind. I've shown it here in its entirety for a reason. It's a mystery Vessel tool that can help us later. Picking this apart though, this theme of white to black could be interpreted in the classic way. Loss of innocence, purity, good old Christian wholesomeness, etc. But this seems to go further. This feels like possession. Sleep has possessed him, a full infiltration of Vessel's soul, seeping into every part of him, tangling endlessly, becoming inextricable from each other. It's becoming clearer what Sleep is getting out of this exchange. If we look back at the video for Thread the Needle, the description tells us pretty clearly. Sleep Token are a masked, anonymous collective of musicians, united by their worship of an ancient deity crudely dubbed Sleep, since no modern tongue can properly express its name. This being once held great power, bestowing ancient civilizations with the gift of dreams and the curse of nightmares. Even today, though faded from prominence, Sleep yet lurks in the subconscious minds of man, woman, and child alike. Notice that line, this being once held great power, but not anymore. She is now faded from prominence. After all, what is a god without followers? That's what she's getting from this. Vessel is meant to bring her followers and restore her divinity. This song is exactly as it says it is. It's an offering. Vessel giving himself fully and completely over to his God. Notice how ecstatic he is to throw himself at her feet, how earnestly he gives himself over. You are a garden enshrined in all. You are the silence on sacred shores. You've got diamonds for teeth, my love, so take a bite of me just once. I want to turn the page once again. Take a bite. I told you that theme of teeth and biting would be important, and like the apple from Thread the Needle, Vessel offers, no, begs Sleep to take a bite of him, to mark him as her own. He doesn't care if it hurts. In fact, he seems to be counting on it. This is a giving, an offering, in your favor, a sacrifice in your name. But I know you've got a taste, so take a bite of me. Turn the page once again. Give up the game and let me in. My arms belong around you, so take a bite. I want to know. Up until this point, Sleep has only gotten a taste of Vessel, only a sample of the devotion he's willing to give her. He wants her to sink her teeth in and get a full taste of what he's willing to offer. He sees her reluctance as a game, like she's toying with him, and maybe she is. But any reluctance that Vessel had following the events of Nazareth seems to have vanished completely. He has embraced this new life, and he is ready to be consumed by it. The imagery in the visualizer is much of the same nature footage from before, which we've already begun to associate with Sleep. But interlaced with it are images of fire. Lots of fire. Campfires, pages burning, and most importantly, candles. The symbolism here is just as clear as before. Candles serve as a means of controlling fire, a force that's normally known to be uncontrollable, destructive, and all-consuming. The way that a candle works is by using the heat from the flame to melt the wax, and then feeding that liquid wax up through a wick that continues to fuel the fire. In much the same way, Vessel is entering himself into an agreement, offering up small pieces of himself to keep Sleep satisfied, to keep the fire burning. And these images of roaring campfires, burning books, and sweeping fields of flame show us the alternative, the not-too-distant possibility that Vessel won't be able to keep Sleep's passion in check. And if that happens, her fire will consume him and leave nothing behind. Our theory from the first song about Sleep's motivations becomes even more solid in the lyrics of Levitate, as we learn more concretely what Sleep is getting out of this little arrangement. This song is from Vessel's perspective, and the song starts out incredibly mournful. I can lift you up. Your body is mostly blood, like water, a perfect flood, engulfing me again. He is fully consumed by her, wrapped up in everything that she is, like a flood engulfing him, drowning him, dragging him under. Hey, that's the wrong song. Oh, what's that? Yeah, you're too early. Oh, too early? Oh, sorry. Let's get back on track. And I can tell you won't remember my cracking bones. The trauma we can't regrow just as you leave again. This isn't an accusation. This is a resignation. He's fully resigning himself to the understanding that sleep will never appreciate the pain and suffering that he has put himself through to lift her up, to project her image, to spread her word. Vessel is also telling us that this has been a cycle, a regular repeating pattern of behavior. He can tell that she's going to forget about him, and this isn't the first time that she's left him. She's done it before, and she's either going to do it again, or she's doing it right now. Will you levitate up where the angels inhabit? Will you levitate where I won't reach you? And this is where the theory crystallizes. This is the arrangement, the transactional exchange that sleep has established. Sleep offers Vessel her love, affection, and maybe even power and wealth. And in exchange, Vessel spreads word of sleep through the very songs we're analyzing right now. Sleep's goal is simple. She wants to regain power, to attain the divinity that she has not had in a very long time, and her methods are even simpler. Manipulate Vessel, as well as 2, 3, and 4, these incredibly talented musicians, and make them sing her praises, write her gospel, spread her message. And we imitate a story of perfect days, a ballad we fabricate as you forget your words again. To Vessel, this is not a transaction. Vessel is fully and wholly enthralled by sleep, but he can already sense that it's becoming one-sided. Those last 2 lines are so powerful in the way that he likens this relationship to a ballad, a love song that they're meant to write and perform together, but Sleep is clearly less invested as she forgets the words to her half of the duet. It's such incredible imagery, and it tells us exactly how it feels to be in Vessel's position. And is that all you need? To merely pretend to be falling in love with me? Forgetting the agony again. This is the first time we start to see hints of Vessel wanting to speak out, to stand up for himself. It's subtle and short-lived, but the spark is there. He knows somewhere in there that Sleep was just using him for her own gains. It's clear that Sleep abandons Vessel frequently, and that this is a recurring pattern of behavior. But even through this small twinge of anger, this spark of exasperation, Vessel is still fully and completely in love with Sleep and is clearly willing to put up with this behavior. The visualizer isn't as important now as it will be very shortly. We get the same natural landscapes as usual, but with a distinct difference. Most of these shots are of the water, oceans, coastlines, waterfalls. The direct antithesis, or maybe even the cure, to fire. And is it any coincidence that we're being shown this during the very song where Vessel begins to question his relationship with Sleep? You and I both know it's not, but we'll come back to this later. Put a pin in it for now. Dark Signs starts with reflection, introspection, Vessel looking inwards at his past. Where I was raised, there was no street lights, just pitch black and passing headlights. Vessel is used to the dark. He grew up in it. The only light he knew was passing headlights, brief, fleeting beacons of brilliance that never really stuck around. And where we met, there must have been dark signs, omens in your skies. He reflects on when he first met Sleep, how he must have seen dark signs within her, reminders of his past, red flags that should have warned him of what was to come. but either he didn't recognize them or he ignored them outright. Likely because those dark signs that he saw in sleep weren't all too different from what he was already accustomed to in his past. The visualizer for this one is dark, literally. Sinking deeper into this watery theme, we get images of jellyfish, rolling waves, and angles looking up at the sky from just under the surface. All of it is bathed in this hypersaturated dark purple. Jellyfish are incredibly prominent in this visualizer, and that's on purpose. They're symbolic of the passive role that Vessel seems to take in this relationship, just getting pushed around and being forced to adapt. They're also symbolic of the fact that if Vessel wishes to survive, he's going to need to learn to defend himself. And I miss the man I was the moment we left off. And I hate who I have become every time I wake up. There's that theme of separation again. Delineation between his past and his present, as well as a delineation between the day and the night. Vessel is not only acknowledging that he's a different person now, he's also saying that he misses the man that he used to be anytime sleep isn't with him, and that he hates who he is now, hates who he is with her. But there's an important distinction to be made here. That line, every time I wake up. We know that the sunrise and waking up are associated with a separation from sleep, meaning when he's with sleep, he feels fine, great even. But the moment they separate, Vessel is overcome with what can only be described as regret. And if you saw the marks on my dashboard, the new scars that I didn't ask for, would you call asking for answers tear my arms off? As Vessel describes these new scars, he makes it clear that these scars weren't anticipated. These weren't part of the deal. At first, it might be tempting to assume that these are from sleep, that maybe she inflicted more damage than even Vessel wanted, but then he asked if she would call him, asking where they came from. And it implies that she would be furious to see them. This feels like self-harm, especially with the line about his arms. Vessel has been hurting himself, a futile attempt to escape from the situation he finds himself in. And he knows that if she finds him like this, if she sees these scars, Sleep will be furious, will tear off his arms so that he has no choice but to stop. During the chorus, as Vessel once again tells us how much he hates who he's become, how much he longs for the person he was before, in the background we hear him repeating, I might break and bend to my basic need to be loved and close to somebody. The regret, the anger, the self-loathing, none of it matters. He'll push it all away the very next time he's with her because he is so desperate for love and affection, he is willing to throw himself away to obtain it. To reference back to the fields of Elation, he has now fully lost his faith in his life apart from Sleep. He has become fully codependent. And now, for the first time since the beginning of the album, we have a song from the perspective of Sleep. And she is not happy. You say you won't begin again. Capitulate and let me in, because I am a fire, and you are dry as bone. You are taking your time. You are killing me slow. It seems like this time around, Vessel has put his foot down in some way. He's not letting her back in. And Sleep, on one hand, seems to understand or at least acknowledge his reasons why. She's a raging inferno and he's kindling. She will burn him up and leave nothing behind. She's a danger to him and he's tired of her chewing him up and spitting him out over and over. But Sleep doesn't seem to be taking no for an answer. After all, this is what he agreed to. She's almost begging him at this point, saying that he's literally killing her, that she will die without him.
And I know we instigate, go back and forth, lacerate, 'cause you can remember only when you're alone. I am granting you more than the debt that I owe.
And here is the payoff. She sets him up, acknowledging his concerns, feigning empathy before turning it around on him. She says, "We both hurt each other. You antagonize me just as much as I do to you. This is just as much your fault as it is mine." And then, a subtle bit of gaslighting. "You can remember only when you're alone. It's never a problem when we're together. You never seem to remember any of these issues you have when I'm with you." And then she swoops in for the kill. "I am granting you more than the debt that I owe." This line does two things for us. The first and most obvious is the manipulation it demonstrates, telling Vessel that she's upholding her end of the deal, and if anything, she's over-delivering on her promises. But the second thing it does is further reinforce what we already know. Vessel sees this as a relationship. He describes it as an intimate connection, a mutual desire. Sleep sees this as a transaction. I look for scarlet and you look for ultraviolet. And we are exhausted by all the pretending. We just can't resist the violence. Sleep is seeking the excitement of inflicting harm on Vessel. She's seeking the scarlet of his blood, while Vessel is seeking the ultraviolet of the sunrise, an escape from the torment. And there's that word again, we. She's implicating Vessel as an accomplice to his own abuse. You need the melody, and I only need the silence. And each time we battle, the blood and the fury takes us a little higher. And there it is again. That theme of elevation, ascension, levitating higher. This seems to be all Sleep wants, all she cares about. And again, she says it takes us a little higher. This is part of what she's promised Vessel. Followers, apostles, the power of the masses. For her, this grants her divinity, power. For Vessel, fame. She thinks this is mutually beneficial, or at least that's what she claims to believe. There's this belief in popular culture that the best artists are the ones who are the most traumatized. Sleep seems to have taken this to an extreme, believing that each bite she takes, each wound she inflicts, each scar she leaves behind will elevate Vessel to becoming a better artist. And the worst part is, she's right. It'll become more obvious the more that you listen, but even now, comparing the first two EPs with Sundowning, each song is more emotional than the last. The band's writing becomes more intricate and poetic. The instrumentals are more dynamic and expressive. The longer this trauma goes on, the longer the abuse is endured, the more expressive the music becomes.
And with all that you believe, you still refuse to shelter me.
Despite all of that manipulation, Vessel is holding his ground. He's thankfully refusing to let this slide. Sleep tried emotional manipulation and she failed, but she's never going to admit that she's wrong, never willing to back down and take responsibility. Instead, well, because I am a danger and you're a long way from home. You're one among many, but you're now on your own. Sleep is very quick to resort to threats of violence, and we learn here that Vessel may not be her only victim, maybe not even her only recent victim. Of course, there's the woman that was mentioned in Nazareth, but who's to say that she's the only recent casualty? Regardless, the message is clear. She's isolating him, and she knows it. She's doing it on purpose, cutting him off from any potential supports, depriving him of the validation he would need to escape from her tar trap. Sleep is also expressing some real vulnerability here, maybe unintentionally. And I hate the way you look at me when I am not understood, 'cause you can remember only when you're alone, and I'm granting you more than the debt that I owe. And then, almost as if she's backpedaling, she slips back into her emotional manipulation, saying, "Don't look at me like that. You know that's not what I meant. You're just not understanding me," before repeating once again the same gaslighting from before and flipping it around to where it's Vessel that owes her. This seems genuine. It's certainly not an apology, more like an excuse. "I'm not abusing you, you just don't understand me. I do this because I love you, and you just don't get it." But we know that's an act. Or at least, that's what past behavior would lead us to believe. At the end of the song, the line, "the debt that I owe," is repeated over and over again. A harsh scream getting louder and louder, more and more intense, before collapsing in on itself into an intense breakdown. I like to imagine that this is Vessel having his own breakdown, completely falling apart after walking into this conversation, probably with the intention of cutting Sleep off, or at bare minimum, holding her accountable. And instead, somehow, she's flipped the tables on him. It's not the debt that she owes, it's now the debt that he owes. And this is him struggling to come to terms with that, having a complete mental breakdown, realizing that he did everything right. He stood up for himself, he set boundaries, he stood his ground, and somehow she still managed to turn it back around on him. The visualizer is simple. It shows scenes of snowy landscapes and caves full of rapidly melting ice, with background themes of deep water, a placid lake resting quietly in the background. Stick another pin in this water imagery because we're still not quite ready to tackle that. But as for the rest, Vessel is trying to be cold, frigid, to turn his back on Sleep, to give her the cold shoulder. But how long can snow and ice truly last against a blazing fire? To preface this song, I want to peel back the curtain for a second and demonstrate what an ongoing process this analysis has been for me. This version of the video that you're watching right now is not the first draft, it's not the second draft, but this is my fourth draft of my entire analysis. And not just for this album, but for the entire discography. And only on my fourth time reviewing and rewriting this, the pass-through I'm writing as I speak, did I realize that I had this song entirely wrong. So as a special treat to show you my thought process and how it's changed as I've worked on this, I'm going to show you both interpretations. To put it briefly, my initial interpretation of the song was that this was Vessel coming around and accepting Sleep's abuse again. Accepting that this violence and pain that she inflicts is just the way that she shows affection, the way that she loves him, and going so far as to tell her to take aim at him, to set him in her sights and fire away. If this is how you love me, then love me to death. I thought for the longest time that this was just The Offering 2.0. Part of the reason I arrived at this conclusion is lines like, "How you love like weapons kill," and "You make me hate myself, make me tear my body." We've already set up themes of self-harm and dark signs, and this idea of Vessel describing Sleep's love like a weapon felt right to me. But on my fourth pass through, I realized I'm dead wrong. Take aim is not from Vessel's perspective at all. It's from Sleep's. And we can pick this up from just the first verse. "Wait, won't you wait for me? Don't you bathe in rivers? Don't you feel alive? And when I see you waking up, oh, it sends me shivers how you love like weapons kill." With the line, "see you waking up," that can only be Sleep. And knowing that, this song seems to be addressing two different major concerns that Vessel has brought up. The first being that sleep regularly abandons him. And her response to that is just wait. Just wait for me. Isn't life good? Are you not satisfied with what you have? And then she immediately turns it back on him again, gentler this time. She tells Vessel that when she sees him waking up, sees him leave her, it sends shivers down her spine as she's reminded how much he needs her. The way he calls her name, she's intoxicated by it. And it seems like this is her excuse for leaving, because she loves to see him want her like this. Vessel loves like weapons kill. He loves her like it's what he's created for, like it's his only purpose in life. So take aim at me for once. Take aim and break me apart. This wouldn't make sense coming from Vessel, especially not the line for once. Sleep sets her crosshairs on Vessel constantly. But Vessel's other concern was, as the last song established, how Sleep is so violent. He knew going into this that she was going to hurt him, but he didn't anticipate this degree of pain. And Sleep's response? Hit me back. Hurt me, beat me, attack me, take aim at me for once. There's an obvious issue with this response. There's a significant power imbalance in this relationship. Vessel is a mortal man, a simple human being, while Sleep is this primordial deity, an entity beyond human comprehension, a being of such immense power and potential. Her telling Vessel to hurt her back would be like telling a toddler, come on, take a swing, I'll give you a free shot, after dropping a nuke on his house. We'll go over the themes of this power imbalance later on in the summary. But for now, the next verse is more of the same thing. Won't you call out my name like a curse on this world, like a battle cry? Oh, and you make me hate myself, make me tear my body, make me yearn for your embrace. This entire song seems very much like a non-apology, like it's pretending to be an apology, but she never actually apologizes. She thinks that if she just love bombs him enough, she'll get through to him. A little affection, a little gaslighting, and a healthy dose of victim blaming, and maybe Vessel will feel bad enough to let her back in. And she seems confident in this, because as the song reaches its climax, she seems to already be celebrating her victory. You know I'll be yours. When the moment is perfect, I will fire and forget until we both lay broken. And you know I'll be yours. I just want to be worth it. I will run like the wind until you follow me again. The visualizer shows us verdant forests, leaves blowing in the wind, all tinged in this gentle green hue. And the message is clear. Sleep is calling to Vessel, showing him that it doesn't need to be all fire and destruction. It doesn't need to be deep waters and drowning sorrows. It can go back to how it was. The fields of Elation, this quiet and loamy place where they can just exist together in peace, if only Vessel would let down his walls and welcome her in again. Finally, after 4 revisions, I feel confident in my interpretations. And I don't say this to suggest that my analysis is infallible or more correct than anyone else's. In fact, the point I'm trying to make is the exact opposite. I have analyzed this song over 3 times. I've listened to it hundreds more, and I've read and reread the lyrics over and over and over again. And each time I rewrote this analysis, I entrenched myself further and further in my previous interpretation. Until this last time, when I read the lyrics one more time and came to the realization that I wasn't even right about whose perspective this song was from. The point I'm trying to make is that I meant what I said at the beginning of this video. If you're listening to this video, and if at any point you feel like I got something wrong, that I misinterpreted something, or even if something about my interpretation just feels off, tell me in the comments, because I want to know what you all see. I'm not here to give you a lecture on the definitive lore of Sleep Token. I'm presenting my paper for a peer review, for lack of a better word. And who knows, maybe on this 4th revision of the song, maybe I still got it wrong. And with that, let's move on to the next song. It seems as though Sleep celebrated a little prematurely, because we're still in her perspective and she is still trying to wear Vessel down to get him to open up again. The visualizer has shifted away from snowy tundras to a different kind of barren landscape, sprawling deserts. Vessel's warming up, but even still, he's holding out, dry and devoid of emotion, refusing to give in to her. Every once in a while, we get glimpses of water in the background, distant but looming. However, even in the sprawling desert, we do see signs of life, specifically a snake, possibly a symbol of Vessel's resilience, like the jellyfish we saw before, though just as likely a symbol of Sleep's deceit, her dishonesty. In the lyrics, we're beginning to see a side of Sleep we haven't seen from her. Desperation. We're watching in real time as Sleep realizes that Vessel is not as dependent on her as she would like, and in reality, Sleep seems to need Vessel far more than Vessel needs Sleep. In Higher, we watched her justify her actions as being just the way things are, and telling Vessel that she has given him far more than she needed to. She gaslit him, manipulated him, tried to twist his words around. In Take Aim, she pushed harder, masking her words in this sickly sweet facade. She began playing the victim and telling Vessel that classic abuser line. You told me how much I hurt you, and that hurt my feelings, so therefore I am the real victim. And it seems in the last song, this started to wear away at Vessel, started to convince him, but it clearly didn't do enough. Because here, Sleep is still trying. You take the dark and carve me out a home. I picture you when you are all alone, and I want to know you better. Just want to know you better. This almost comes across as a genuine bid for connection. Again, almost. This half-assed attempt to reconcile continues in the chorus. If you want to give, then give me all that you can give, all your darkest impulses, and if you want to give me anything, then give in again. Sleep is damn near begging at this point, or at least as close to begging as we've seen from her. It's like she's presenting this to him as an option. You can give in to me again, if you really want to. Offer yourself up to me, but only if you're ready for that. No pressure. It's odd. She's trying to keep this air of detachment, like she's trying to not let Vessel know how badly she truly needs him. I will be watching for your enemies, to let them know that they contend with me. I want to know you're out there. Just want to know you're out there. Sleep is inserting herself in this protector role, saying she's going to guard him from harm, guard him from these enemies, whoever they may be. We're watching her become more and more desperate, giving Vessel this half-assed gratitude, half-hearted bids for connection, and then offering him protection, safety, meanwhile refusing to acknowledge that the biggest threat to Vessel's safety is herself. But then there at the end, just want to know you're out there. It feels like she's expressing genuine concern, actual emotion finally leaking through the cracks in her facade. She repeats the first chorus again, trying desperately to maintain this air of indifference and detachment before finally the dam breaks. I just want to give. I want to give you all that I can give. All of my darkest impulses, and if you want to give me anything, then give in again. She is now outright begging him, telling Vessel that she just wants to give him everything that she has to offer, if he will only give in and succumb to her again. We're finally seeing Sleep show a bit of fear, honest anxiety at the thought of losing Vessel. Codependence in a relationship tends to go both ways, and this one is no different. Because for once, Sleep is now the one who is basically on her knees and begging Vessel to come back, realizing that without him, without his talent, his influence, and above all else, his overwhelming adoration, she will lose her chance at divinity and slip back into dormancy, forced to languish in obscurity until she can find another willing participant. In this open warfare, I won't fight fair. And in your waking moments, I will be there. This relationship has progressed beyond the bloody battles that were described in Higher. This is now open warfare. And she has made it abundantly clear she is more than willing to play dirty, to leverage this power imbalance against him. Which then begs the question, has anything she has said in this song been genuine? The whole song seemed so earnest and vulnerable, but was it all a trick? A lie? I don't think so. I think that everything Sleep has said in this song has been honest and genuine, including this. Once again, we are reminded that loving someone and abusing someone are not mutually exclusive. One does not excuse the other, but the ways in which they intersect, in which the Venn diagrams overlap with each other, makes it so hard to escape a situation like this. And Sleep is showing us that this relationship has evolved for her too. It's more than just a business transaction now. It's a game, a competition, a war, and a war that Sleep does not intend to lose. Sometimes the emotion and the feelings behind this song can be complicated or up to interpretation. This song is not the case. Vessel is angry, and as we abruptly shift back to his point of view, we are met with a Vessel who is lashing out in anger and anguish. I see the gods avert their gaze from me. My fucking form is but a wreck beneath them. And there are always people that I can call on. Oh, it's all so easy for me. These first two lines are full of pain and anger, screaming out at the other gods. How can they turn away from him when he is so obviously battered and bruised, beaten beyond recognition? These gods are bystanders, outside forces that have the power to intervene, the power to step between Vessel and Sleep to save him from this abuse. But they won't. They avert their gaze and act as though they see nothing. And those last two lines are dripping with sarcasm. Of course, it's all so easy for me. Why didn't I think to just call out for help? Duh, wow, brilliant. No more taking chances, no more teeth to bite with, no more smiling faces. I am alone again. We're witnessing Vessel fully lashing out. This isn't a reenactment in his head of what he would do if given the chance. This is the chance, and he is taking it. This is, unfortunately, a common experience for people who have been the victim of an abusive relationship. People ask, why didn't you tell anyone? You have so many friends and family that you can call on. Why didn't you tell anyone that it was happening? You know you can tell me anything, right? You know you could always ask for help. And as someone in that position, as a victim of abuse, hearing all of this from everyone around you, it's suffocating, because it always feels like it's putting the ball in the victim's court. putting the responsibility of action on the one already suffering, because after all, don't you know how many people you can call on? How easy it should be? This isn't an indictment of anyone who's been in that bystander position by any means. These situations are nuanced and difficult. Bystanders have a hard time knowing when it's appropriate to intervene, to step in between the victim and the abuser. And oftentimes, they wait for that cry for help, that direct invitation for intervention, because if they step in too early, they risk pushing the victim away. All the while, the victim themselves may feel hopeless, betrayed, alone. And this is by design. The wedge between the victim and their support network is driven deeper and deeper, furthering that isolation. And everyone loses except for the abuser, because this is exactly what the abuser wants. This is what gives the abuser control. You want to talk? You want to talk it out? Because the joke's on me and I'm laughing too. You want to watch me beg because I beg so well? It's all so easy for me. Finally, we're getting Vessel's response to the last 3 songs. This angry and bitter retort to Sleep's wishy-washy, meandering, bullshit half-assed apology. He's livid. He's furious that after all that she has put him through, she has the audacity to apologize like this. That even in the midst of her bullshit attempt at reconciliation, she's still asking him to give her more. And do you like the way it feels? Like fire from the heavens, carving past the surface into you. And do you like the way it feels? Like fire from the heavens tearing me asunder beside you. Vessel did end up taking Sleep up on her offer. He took aim, he lashed out in this genuine attempt to harm her, and now, out of breath in the aftermath, he asks her, how do you like that? Is that what you wanted? A taste of your own medicine? This entire bridge is overlaid onto this calm, ambient piano background, giving us the impression that this took way more out of him than it did her. He's lost so much of the energy that has propelled him throughout this song. And the visualizer seems to only confirm this. It shows us footage of explosions, mushroom clouds, erupting volcanoes, before switching to the images of the ruins left in the wake of devastation as Vessel succumbs to the fire in the most explosive way possible. And just like that, we're back in Sleep's perspective. And in her smooth, seductive falsetto, the god almost taunts Vessel as the visualizer shows us intimate moments, holding hands, close-up shots of smiling faces, all bathed in this sickly yellow light. Sleep has gotten exactly what she wanted. You play a twisted little game, but I know in a way you need to complicate. Believe that though we never eat, we still know how to feed. We still know how to bleed. And if there was any concern at this point that Sleep would be angry after Vessel shut her down and lashed out at her, that is certainly not the case. If anything, she's more interested now than she ever was as she repeats the one line that comprises the entire chorus. Sugar, I've developed a taste for you now. His little outburst hasn't scared her. It hasn't enraged her. It hasn't broken Vessel free. If anything, it's made Sleep sink her claws even deeper into him. She's intoxicated by him. So much for no more teeth to bite with. My arms keep you in the room, barely let you move. Show me what you do. Tonight, we're second guessed again. Let me wrap the chains
addicted to the pain.
This entire thing is a game to her, and you can hear it in this playful, lilting melody that comprises most of the song. She's keeping him captive, holding him still, while she toys with him and taunts him. When she asked him to hit back, she meant it. Because this is entertaining for her. It doesn't matter what he does, it's never going to be enough to break free. It's not enough to do any real damage. And if anything, she is amused at how hard he's fighting.
Do you want to see how far this goes? Do you want to test me now? My love, you must be crazy if you think that I will give in so easily. The things we buried low are coming to the surface now. My love, you must be crazy if you think that I will give up the game.
Sleep is reaffirming everything we already know. She's not giving up anytime soon. And Vessel must be insane if he thinks that anything he's done so far is enough to get her to quit, enough to get her to let him go. There's almost a tinge of anger here, as if this really has gotten to her a little bit. Maybe somewhere in there, this act of defiance that has shaped half of this album really did piss her off more than she's letting on. But she's locked in on him now, and she's not letting this end. The energy of the last two songs fades a little, and we're finally back to Vessel's perspective. And just like Sleep had said earlier, that Vessel would be crazy to think that she would ever give up, we would be just as crazy to think that Sleep wouldn't punish Vessel for everything that he just did. And what better way to punish him than through malicious compliance? The visualizer is back to frigid tundras and snowy landscapes, but it's not Vessel giving the cold shoulder this time.
Is that a word you say, my love, or just a gesture in tongues? Will I live to guess your sorrow, and you live to empty my lungs? You've got me up in a frenzy again, and I know you're planning to leave in the end.
The violence seems to have stopped, but Sleep has stuck to her word. She warned him that this violence and aggression, this physical abuse, this is the only way that she knows how to show love. And he asked her to stop. So she's complying. No more teeth to bite with. But that means no more affection. He's hanging on her every word, waiting for a sign, a signal, anything. Vessel is left in the dark and completely oblivious to Sleep's feelings because she has completely given him the cold shoulder. And he knows what this means. He knows that she's going to leave.
Won't you say that you will let the impulse to love and the instincts to kill entangle to one? In this light you are mine until the sweat turns to blood. Won't you say that you will, even if you won't?
Sleep has fully withdrawn from Vessel, as if to say, you couldn't handle the way I loved you. So now I'm giving you what you want. I'm leaving you alone. It's such a common manipulation tactic, and Vessel is falling for it. Hook, line, and sinker. He knows damn well that this entire argument started because he demanded that she stop harming him, that she show him love in a way that wasn't so painful, that she separate her violence and her affection. But now here we are again, Vessel begging her to put them back together, telling her that he cannot live without her love and he doesn't care about the damage it causes. Let the sweat turn to blood. And then that line, even if you won't. Almost like an acknowledgement. Like he's been programmed to believe that this entire thing is his fault, and he shouldn't have said anything in the first place.
Is that a glint in your eye? Is that a blade in your palm? Well, I am yours tonight, so will you lay in my arms?
He doesn't trust her, and rightfully so. He's on edge, flinching at every sudden movement. But also, why does this almost sound hopeful? Like, yes, She may be planning to use that blade, and that might scare him, but it might give him some relief, some amount of hope that things will go back to normal. He can't let her go. He wants her to just say that she will love him, say that things can go back to the way that they were, even if it's a lie, and even if that love ends up being the same violence as before. Sleep has fully placed the blame on Vessel, and Vessel believes it to be true. He almost sounds defeatist, like he's accepted that this is all his fault. His will is fading, and any amount of resistance we saw from him slips away as he just fully accepts his fate, fully accepts that this is just the way things must be between him and Sleep. There's certainly more awareness in him than there was at the beginning of this album, but for what purpose? It's just enough for him to realize what is happening, but it's clearly not enough for him to know it's time to pull away. He understands just enough to flinch at her touch, but not quite enough to know to run. After watching Vessel's will to fight fade right before our very eyes in the last song, we watch it wither into nothingness during this one. In Drag Me Under, Vessel is nothing more than an empty shell, a ghost of his former self, merely a whisper of the man that we knew at the beginning of this story, and it shows in the whispering falsetto of the vocals. Vessel has fully succumbed to Sleep's influence. And I know the angels are as lost for words as I am, to merely behold you as we lie down together. And I know the gods will abandon the heavens just to find us. Vessel is right. I'm sure the angels are at a loss for words. I'm sure those gods that looked away before are willing to drop everything now, but certainly not for the reasons that Vessel thinks. Listening to this song, especially in the context of the songs that came before it, is so painful. It's like watching a friend run back into the arms of their abuser, watching them forgive someone that does not deserve it, watching that abuser sink their claws deeper and deeper into them. Hearing this song makes me want to reach through the screen and to shake him out of it. It makes me want to scream, "What are you thinking? Don't let her keep doing this to you." But nothing can change this. Vessel is locked in and sinking fast. Drag me under again, deep into your love. No hesitation, no thoughts, but no joy either. The fields of elation that Vessel sang about before are nowhere to be found here. And as the visualizer is filled with images of ocean depths, and as the camera sinks deeper and deeper towards the ocean floor, it's time to take that pin out and talk about the ever-present water in the earlier videos. Seeing Sleep represented as fire, it was easy to see the water as an escape, a way out, a counter to her destructive nature. But that water wasn't a promise of safety, it was a threat, foreshadowing, a looming omen of what was to come. Fire is painful, but it's also bright and illuminating. Fire is destructive, but it's also quick. But water is a slow and suffocating killer. Water will drag you deeper and drown you in isolation. Sleep is dragging him under, deeper and deeper, down into the depths where not even light can reach him anymore. And unfortunately, these themes of being dragged beneath the surface, of sinking and drowning, are going to set the stage for the entire second album. And as Vessel's voice is cut short and the piano fades out, the curtain falls on our first act. But hold on, I can hear you say. There's one more song. That's not the end of the album. And to that I say, how did you get into my apartment? I booby-trapped the stairway so extensively, there's no way you should have survived. Much like how The Night Does Not Belong to God served as our prologue, Bloodsport serves as something like an epilogue. It gives us a summary of where we stand here at the end of the album and how Vessel is feeling after everything he's been through. The visualizer is full of images of what looks like blood dripping into water, flowing into wispy strands before fading into the fluid around it. The abuse has not stopped, even here down in the ocean, down in the deep depths of the water where Vessel has been dragged. The violence continues. All that has changed is the setting. Rather than the verdant fields or snowy forests from before, Vessel now bleeds in the suffocating depression of the ocean surrounding him. Vessel takes the song to look inwards, and he says to himself what he hasn't been able to express out loud. I want to roll the numbers. I want to feel my stars align again. Even if the earth breaks like burned skin and the heavens just won't open up for me. Vessel wants nothing more at this point than to take a chance, to break away from sleep once and for all, to find someone new, someone who makes his stars align again, someone who makes him feel like he did at the beginning of this album. Even if it hurts, even if it doesn't work out, he longs for that feeling again. He wants to feel that way with sleep. He wants things to go back to the way that they were between them, to the blissful ignorance that he had at the beginning of all of this. But he's not positive that things will ever be like that again. Would you invite me in again? Won't you pay for your arrogance? Won't you show me your weakness? He wants her to be vulnerable with him again, wants her to let him in one more time. Vessel standing up for himself fundamentally changed this relationship. Sleep has kept him at arm's length ever since. And above all else, he wants her to say that she's sorry. He wants her to pay for her arrogance, admit that what she did hurt him, admit that she's done wrong. But the chorus seems to show the Vessel knows how futile this effort really is. I've made loving you a blood sport. I can't win. This relationship has become defined by bloodshed and violence, pain and torture. Vessel has normalized for himself this practice of self-harm and sacrifice in exchange for affection. And here, Vessel is blaming himself. He made loving her a blood sport. He believes that it's all his fault, that he allowed it to come to this, that he's become so permissive of it now that there's no way for him to win. There's no way for him to go back. And somewhere the atoms stopped fusing. I'm still your favorite regret. You're still my weapon of choosing. And out there, stuck in a quantum pattern, tangled in what I never said, you say it doesn't matter. Staying in this relationship is an act of self-harm, as if Vessel believes that this is what he deserves. Somewhere out there, the atoms stopped fusing together. The star that guided their relationship is dying. And this line at the end, stuck in a quantum pattern, tangled in what I never said, is directly evoking the concept of quantum entanglement. To put it simply, quantum entanglement is when two particles are so connected that it is impossible to affect one without affecting the other, even at a great distance from each other. Vessel and sleep have become inexorably tangled together. Affecting one affects the other. It is the most pure form of codependence there can be. I want to be forgiven. I want to choke up chunks of my own sins, even if the sky cracks in the morning and the heavens just won't open up for me. Would you invite me in again? Let me pay for my arrogance. Won't you show me your weakness? Vessel regrets the things that he's done for sleep, the atrocities he's committed just to stay in her good graces. He wants to be forgiven. He wants more than to just be absolved of his sins. He wants to expel them from his body, to not have to feel this way anymore. Even internally, Vessel can't help but blame himself. In this song, Vessel is telling us what he has been struggling to admit to himself, that he wants to be free. He wants to let this relationship go, but he can't bear to tell Sleep any of these things. Even still, as he's begging for release, he can't help to wonder, how will she feel about this? How will she react to him wanting freedom? What will she say? Their quantum entanglement is so strong, their codependence runs so deep, that he cannot even bear to imagine leaving for fear of how it will affect her. And so, resigning himself to stay, Vessel gently weeps as he accepts that there is truly no way out. So I had an entire summary and outro already planned and scripted and recorded, but after having finished the rest of this video, I don't think it quite fits anymore. So I'm recording this bit immediately after I finished a marathon editing session and just put the last couple of edits on Bloodsport. So if it's all right with you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and use this as a brief intermission. So now would be a great time to get up, stretch a little bit, grab yourself a drink before we dive deeper into the summary and the deeper overarching themes. If you can't tell, this is my first real crack at actual long form in-depth video editing in a very long time, and actually this is only the second video essay I have ever made. And on one hand, I'm kind of terrified by that because it means I kind of front-loaded this video with some of the worst editing, but on the other hand, if you've made it this far, that means that you've hopefully seen some of the progress I've made as I've learned on the job, so to speak. And if you've made it this far, you're either hate watching because you are furious at my thread the needle interpretation, and that rage has carried you all the way through to this moment. You've spent this entire video meticulously crafting and typing up the most devastating novella of a comment to completely dismantle my thesis. Or you just really enjoyed the video. And if you're a part of the former category, I cannot wait to read your manifesto, but if you're a part of the latter category, maybe consider leaving a like. It's free and it helps a lot. It goes a long way. And of course, if you want to see me cover the next album, let me know in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss it when it happens. I am really excited to get working on This Place Will Become Your Tomb because I think, narratively speaking, it's probably my favorite album so far. And this is the first album where they start really introducing a lot of ARG elements like codes and clues and puzzles to solve. Okay, I think that's enough of a break. So Sundowning is a pretty dark opening act, and I personally think it's kind of a masterpiece. The first 8 songs that come before it establish the honeymoon phase, and they let us watch Vessel slowly fall out of it, slowly identify and then subsequently ignore these increasingly blatant red flags. By the time the album actually starts, Sleep can kind of do whatever the heck she wants, and Vessel honestly wouldn't care. And the way Sleep accomplishes this is by making Vessel complicit in her atrocities. She makes him sacrifice a presumably innocent person, and in Vessel's mind, if that wasn't enough to make him leave, well, then nothing's going to. He's so permissive of her behavior that he doesn't know where to draw the line, doesn't know where to set a boundary because he's let her go so far already. And by the time he does set a boundary and draw a line in the sand, Sleep punishes him almost immediately. Dr. Lenore E. Walker has done a lot of research and work in domestic violence and women's psychology over the course of her career, and in 1979 she released a book titled The Battered Woman. And in that book, that is where she first coined the term the cycle of abuse. The cycle has 4 stages. The first stage is tension building, and this is marked by the gradual and steady increase in abusive behaviors. These usually start small, but they will gradually intensify and escalate. The first EP shows our first signs of this. It starts in this honeymoon phase, this blissful ignorance in the fields of elation, but then when the bough breaks, we start to see a shift, and Sleep starts nitpicking him and accusing him and questioning his devotion. The second stage is the incident of violence, and this doesn't always immediately mean physical violence. Sometimes this can manifest as just social isolation, intimidation, insults, blaming, manipulation, emotional abandonment. Sometimes the incidents start small, like in the first EP, but they escalate each time the cycle happens, and they can escalate pretty quickly, like we see in Nazareth. The third stage is reconciliation. At this point, the abuser will have released whatever tension had been building within them, and they're going to try and reconcile with their victim. This could manifest as an apology, a seemingly genuine show of remorse, like we see in Give. The abuser might try and justify their behavior, might try and sweep it under the rug, or minimize it and downplay it, like we see in Higher and Take Aim. They might also begin love bombing or overloading the victim with affection, like we see in Sugar. And unfortunately, sometimes this can convince the victim to go back, which is how the cycle perpetuates. The fourth and final stage is the calm, or as some people like to call it, the honeymoon, although I personally don't like using that term for this stage, and I'll explain why here in a second. By this point, the incident is largely forgotten, or at the very least brushed aside, swept under the rug, and ignored. Things will largely go back to the way that they were. It might even feel like the relationship is going back to the honeymoon phase, where the relationship feels fresh and new and exciting, until inevitably tensions begin to rise again, and we go right back to the start of the cycle. Except we don't go right back to the start. We don't go back to the place that we were before, because we can't go back. Each time the cycle happens, each iteration that we go through, each incident of violence that occurs builds up over time, adding more and more weight, dragging the victim further and further down. The cycle is not a perfect circle. It's not a complete loop. It is a downward spiral going deeper and deeper each time that it happens. Sundowning shows us all of this in a hauntingly beautiful way. Every single song throughout it is just dripping with emotion all the way to the very end, and it peels back the layers to show us what the victim is feeling in these types of situations, especially in Bloodsport, where it shows us how easy it is for Vessel to blame himself for what he is going through. If only I hadn't said that, if only I hadn't made her mad, if only I had seen the signs earlier, if only I had gotten out before it was too late. But to Vessel, it is too late. In his mind, there's nothing to be done. Now we're here, and the only way we can go is down. Sometimes it feels like it's easier to stay, to go around this cycle over and over and over again, than it is to even think about being alone, than it is to risk hurting or disappointing someone that you care about. This isn't an easy topic to discuss, and I'm sure for Vessel it was an even harder topic to write about. It's abundantly clear that this was written from experience, and you can tell at the end of Bloodsport because those sobs are real. That's genuine, and if you're wondering, yes, I did in fact leave Vessel's crying in the video for as long as I did on purpose, because if you are a madman and are watching this video without having listened to the music, I have no better way to convey to you the emotions held in these songs. And if you're watching this today and you're in a situation similar to the ones we've talked about today, if you find yourself relating a little too closely to Vessel's story, or if you find these themes hitting a little too close to home, there is help available for you. If you're in the US, I'm going to be leaving the phone number, website, and text number for the National Domestic Violence Hotline in the description, as well as up here on the screen. And I know that we just had an entire conversation about an hour ago, give or take, about how hard it is to ask for help when you are in these types of situations. But I would rather you have these resources for when you're ready to ask for help than to not have them at all. Because if there's anything that I would like folks to take away from this video, it's that if you are struggling with this, if you're finding yourself relating too closely to Vessel's story, you're not alone. Now, thankfully, Vessel's story is not over. This is just the opening act in a series that is, at time of writing, 4 albums long. And there might be a 5th one on the way, considering even in Arcadia left on such a cliffhanger. And also, I'm pretty sure Sleep Token just signed another deal with RCA. And I'm planning on covering every single album, as well as a litany of other subjects on this channel, including Shipwreck 64, Vermis Malum, The Subtle Horror of Tim Robinson. That one's going to be a good one. You're going to want to see that one. You're going to want to stick around for that one. So if you're interested in any of those or any of the other topics that I've listed here, go ahead and subscribe because you're not going to want to miss them when they drop. Folks, I want to give a huge thank you and a shout out to all of the people that helped me and encouraged me throughout the making of this video. First and foremost, I want to give a massive shout out to my brother Ethan, who took forever to get into Sleep Token, but thanks to his girlfriend Kennedy, also massive shout out to Kennedy, we finally got him into it. And once he got into it, he dove right in and was immediately theorizing, helping me formulate my theories, picking up lines that I glossed over and missed, and helped me formulate my theory on Take Me Back to Eden to the point where I'm more confident about that album than I am even about this one. Also, a massive shout out to my friend and roommate Summer. They helped proofwatch this video chunk by chunk and helped me pick out some of the mistakes and typos, and also just gave me feedback to help make this video better than it would have been otherwise. Also, a massive shout out to my son, Appa. He didn't really contribute to this video, but he did provide me emotional support when I needed it. So, I love you, buddy. God, you're so loud. Also, a massive shout out to Unity, my friend and Twitch moderator over at my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Timpft. She really kind of helped keep me sane and kept things running smoothly when I would take breaks from editing to stream Fear and Hunger. Also, a huge shout out to my friend Michael, who you can find over at twitch.tv/TheRealStealthGamer. He really helped keep me encouraged and motivated throughout this entire process. And lastly, a massive thank you to all of you guys. God, I've got hair everywhere, Appa. Are you kidding me? You're shedding like crazy. And last but not least, a massive thank you to all of you guys for watching this video, as well as just a reminder that if you disagree with my interpretations, if you have a unique analysis of your own, or if you just want to let me know that I'm 100% right and a really cool guy, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. And who knows, if there's enough of you that convince me that I'm wrong or just give a unique interpretation, I might make a follow-up video, like an in-between video, where I revise my interpretation and give credit to all of the people that gave me new ideas. This video is over a year in the making at time of writing, and it took a lot of time and effort. So if you enjoyed it, which again, I hope you did, otherwise I don't know why else you would be here, consider liking and subscribing. Also in the description, you'll find links to my Discord where you can come and hang out and chat with me and the rest of the community and talk about sleep token theories, as well as a link to my Twitch channel where I'm streaming semi-regularly when I'm not working or editing like a madman. And now, since I have no idea how to end this video, I am going to just stare at you uncomfortably until you click away. I'm not sponsored, I'm gonna cover that up. I don't know why I'm doing this. This video is already way too long as it is. I'm just adding more work for myself and more work for my computer to do. So, no idea why I'm doing this, but bye.